which definitely like, even when that's subconscious, like I never openly was just like, you know what, I hate myself.
Well, of course. Yeah.
But subconsciously I would be like, I would do things and be mad at myself for doing them. And then I would spend, so much time worrying about the thing that I did that was trivial and didn't mean anything, but I hated myself for it.
This episode of The Deep Life, we're going to go deep on reinventing ourselves and how much we've changed and evolved over the years, and particularly kind of allowing different aspects of ourselves to die off and really reinvent it, and how people perceive us much differently now than they have before.
Yeah. I think allowing is a really good
allowing
word.
Yeah, that's a good word.
Because I feel like we never really set out with the intention of like completely changing our lives.
No.
In fact, it was probably the opposite.
Yeah.
Where we thought we were just gonna enhance a little bit and improve our life a little bit
and grow a little bit more.
Yeah. And then I think that as we followed this path and went down different avenues, it just sort of kept becoming more and more apparent that like the things we were doing weren't working.
Yeah.
And that changes need to be made.
Yeah. And I know I've mentioned it before, but as much as there is peace and comfort in doing the same things over and over, it's something that's comforting, really. It's just comforting is like the perfect word for it. I kind of get bored with it though. And I think there was like just different points in my life and even in our relationship where I just really was like so bored with it. I was sick and tired of like these monotonous feelings of like feeling okay and like, all right, yeah, like I got through today, I can get through tomorrow. But it was just okay. And I was like, there's got to be like more to this. There's got to be more to this life as opposed to like just checking all the boxes and then what?
Yeah. Like
living at home and, having a family and then just waiting for retirement and death. It was just something that I don't know. I couldn't like wrap my head around. Like, I just wanted like a little bit of a different path or just something different to get me like excited and more interested in researching how I could better myself.
It's growth. And I think like making the decision to pursue growth rather than, I guess, like stagnation, but just like being okay, surviving.
Yes. Yeah. What's that saying?
Like thriving over surviving. Like, Don't just survive, thrive.
Right.
But there's got to be more to life than surviving. Just being alive, like getting up in the morning, going to work, making some money, paying your bills, going to bed, doing it again the next day.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's like it took a while to get.
And we know, I was just going to say, like, we all need that to survive.
Of course.
Because we live in the 21st century. We're unfortunately not cavemen anymore. We need that for our lives. Like, we need that. And we do that, but much differently than like a corporate setting. And there's nothing wrong with the people who do that and have that as a lifestyle because that is commendable and great, and people provide for themselves and their family, and it's so wonderful. But we're specifically talking about ourselves. Yeah.
And it took a while, I think, to get to the place where I am now, I think, to have an understanding that like, I think I chose to be here now in this time. I remember honestly like believing the exact opposite. And be like, well, I didn't choose this. Like, this is just where I am. And I think, as I've evolved spiritually and kind of learned to understand life a little bit better, like I believe that we chose to inhabit, like this body at this time for a reason. And that doesn't mean like big grand things. Like I didn't come here to become like king of the world.
President,
or something.
yeah.
I chose.
Maybe one day.
There's a specific lesson or multiple specific lessons
Yeah.
that my soul wanted me
Yeah.
to learn or wanted to experience
Mm-hmm.
during this life.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was to like get to work on time every day.
Right. And I think that where we're similar, I think we similar had these ideas and thoughts like many, many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what had stopped us from doing what we're doing right now, say like 15 years ago when we were like right out of college, starting out career-wise, like figuring out like what paths to do. I think a big part of it for myself too, like where I thought that like I needed to, when I say check all the boxes, it's kind of just like what like people think the American dream is, or at least for myself, like the American dream of like going to school, getting a college degree, possibly a master's, or like furthering your education, then like falling in love and then getting married and then having kids and then getting like the perfect job and then just family life. And then, like I said, retirement and just wait to retire to enjoy life and travel and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I think both of us kind of early on realized that those were agreements and that we were different in that like we felt very close and connected and wanted similar things, but didn't feel the need to get married or have kids. And I think what I was so worried about that projection of what other people were going to think of us. And still to this day, I have trouble with it. It's gotten better, but like I was so worried about disappointing like my family and my friends, not getting married, not having kids, and never say never, right? We're still young enough, but those things weren't glaringly like have to do this to be like happy and in a committed relationship. Like I don't need a piece of paper to tell me that. And it's so wonderful that people do get married and want to celebrate love. And they're like, I am the first one, hands up, dancing at weddings, sharing like my love for the couple. But like I had to overcome not wanting to disappoint people that were closest to us, because everybody for years and years and years would constantly be like, why aren't you guys getting married? And it was just, I was so afraid to just say, because we don't want to. Like, who says that we have to get married to be happy? And I for years, I would just be like, oh, it's, just kind of like brush it off. But like, I finally feel like I'm at a place where I just don't need that. I do not need the title of husband. Like, we are more married than a lot of married people being together for, 17 years. So that's what I'm talking about, like reinventing ourselves. We chose this path to really work on ourselves and develop the relationship too, because I do think that there comes a point where you get comfortable in a relationship and that also gets monotonous. But I'm so thankful that we've been on this journey, continuously growing and changing together, so that you're so close to me. You see those aspects of myself that I've had to kind of put away and really like kill off. I know that sounds really harsh to say, because like I am really killing off certain parts of me to reinvent myself in where I feel aligned at that moment. Because like I'm not the same person I was a week ago, a month ago, let alone 5, 6, 10 years ago. And I'm lucky to have you along the ride with me to see those changes so abundantly, because not everyone gets to see that. They only get to see either the portion that I killed off and that they think that I'm still that person, or the person that I've reinvented myself as, but they're missing kind of the middle of it.
The meat of it. And I think so many people, just talking about relationships in that sense, tend to like maybe grow apart, which happens probably most often. I feel like a huge issue is one person growing and changing, and the other person either not growing or changing, or like resenting, or maybe not growing and changing and resenting them for changing. Where, yeah, I guess I don't like the term luck. I don't think I believe in it the more I think about it. But I'll say right now, just for, it's easy to understand, we're lucky to have each other that we can grow together.
Yeah.
And that we, from an early age, we started making changes and sort of, like you said, like seeing it in each other. They're like, okay, this is where this is going.
Yeah.
So like, I think I learned at a young age not to expect you to stay the same.
Yeah. Yes.
Which helps push me to want to change more and to like, kind of grow together, like I said. And I think that change is the only thing that's constant. Like, to not change is such a false, I don't even know what you call it. It's a mental structure. It's humans, I think, are the only species on the planet that like doesn't expect things to change. We don't even want like the weather to change. We freak out like it's getting colder, and it's like nature is cycles, and nature is change and rebirth, like death and rebirth. And we, I think, have kind of learned to embrace that death and rebirth aspect of it. Yeah. And then it just gets exciting. And I think then you can really lean into it. But it starts out uncomfortable. Yeah. And I think there was a time, and there's still there's the discomfort doesn't go away. But there were definitely times, especially when we were younger, when people are like, oh, you guys, you're changing. Like, what changed? Why are you different? Why aren't you what you're used to? Yeah. Like, you're not partying like you used to. You're not doing like the activities that you used to do. And it's an evolution. But then I think that stuff weighs on you too. If you're not ready for it, then it's like, oh man, why am I changing? Yes. Why am I letting all these people down? Why? Yes. I was just going to say that. Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh my God, I'm changing, but like the people who I'm closest with are still viewing the old me. And now I'm scared. Like, oh my gosh, am I going to change so much where I'm going to lose these people that are closest to me? I have like a fear of abandonment. Of course, that's like deep rooted. Yeah. I mean, kind of everybody does. You just want like to be loved and accepted in all aspects of your life. Getting better at it as we're changing and evolving. But that's the thing. Yeah, like you've changed. Like people say that like it's a bad thing. Like it has a bad connotation. And now I can happily say like, yeah, I have. I'm not the same person that I was. Like I remember getting really vulnerable and deep here. Like I had technically said I needed a break from you completely. This was how many years ago? 10, 12 years ago, at least. Something like that. Because I felt like what you were doing at that point in your life, you weren't personal training. You had just like, didn't really know what to do as like career, job. Like you didn't know. Neither did I, right? But for some reason, like I was just like, okay, like we need a break. We're done. This is it. And I to this day, like feel so badly because I wasn't giving you like the opportunity to like voice, like I'm still figuring this out. And I just kind of cut it off, and had only been broken up for like a couple months, maybe 6 months or something. And then we got back together. Very short version of the story. But it goes along with like, I knew for myself, like I didn't want to be in that monotonous relationship of like no excitement, just bland, living day to day to get by, because that's really what we were doing. And I do think that it helped both of us once we did communicate more on like where we needed to bring ourselves to the next level and like map out like what was going to get our souls on fire and like kind of readjust and redo the agreements and the lifestyle that we had began, because it clearly wasn't what our path was meant to be. It's much more where we are today in alignment with kind of like what we would say like our authentic code. I think that's a fair way to put it. Authentic code. I think when we met like in high school,
Yeah.
Like, so we were young, but we were also at a stage in our life where I feel like everything was already mapped out for us in a sense, where it's like, you're going to go to school, you're going to graduate, you're going to go to college. And then I think once that, and like for me, I'm only speaking personally, but like when I graduated from college, didn't know what I was going to do next.
Right.
And it was the first time in my life that I didn't know what the next step was.
Yeah.
Either for that year, that
no one
day.
tells you.
And nobody tells you. But also, like, I feel like nobody tells you they're going to stop telling you. Like, so your entire life is like, okay, you're going to like, you go to school, like the year ends, you have summer vacation, then the next year starts. And like, you have these natural cycles where you progress through your education or your schooling. And and especially I feel like also like as an athlete, so much of my life was planned for me in the same manner, where it's like, we have the season, then you have your off season, you have a short break, then your off season training, then it kind of ramps up during the summer, and then you go back to camp and you start over.
Yep.
And I was so used to just like autopilot and being like, okay, but I know I have like 1 week off, and then we start our off season program again. I'm ready, can't wait for next year. And then all of a sudden, like the season ended, and there wasn't an off season plan. There wasn't anything. I didn't know where I was going, didn't know what I was doing. And like the only thing I kind of knew was that the path I was on was wrong, because, I had majored in finance. So I was going to be a businessman. I didn't even know what that meant. I was just like, oh, like I want to make money. Businessmen make money. Yeah. Finance means money. Like I'm going to go study money, and then I'm going to be good at it, and they're going to give it to me.
Yeah.
And then I graduated and started going on like interviews.
Yeah.
And it was like, the interviews were boring the hell out. Like I would go sit at like some guy's desk, and it'd ask me like questions about like the stock market and what I think is going. And I'm just like, I don't care. And then he'd ask me about like, and I'd be like, oh, so like, what's the day-to-day life of this job? And like, you're gonna sit in a cubicle, you're gonna type numbers into a computer, you're gonna like kiss people's ass, and eventually they're gonna promote you to like the next level, whatever next level
it's
of
like
that.
Office Space.
Yeah, and that was what I'd be thinking. And it's like I would be sitting in these interviews, almost like I would be petrified of like
a deer in
what
headlights.
if that's going to be my life? So I like clearly like nobody hired me,
right?
Which is also a big part of what you're talking about, but
a blessing in disguise.
Looking back now, I can realize that it's like, oh, okay, I was blocking these jobs.
Yeah, I was just going to say
because
your energy.
It's like my energy in those interviews and through that whole thing was just like, no, please, no, please, no, please, no.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, why didn't I get it? And I'm just subconsciously like turning down these jobs way before anyone even thought of offering it to me. And I don't know, and maybe that was that, like my soul just knew that was wrong for me. Maybe I just, didn't even know what I was in for. But then, it got to a point where I was just like kind of lost and floating. But also, like we were saying before, like afraid to do something drastic, afraid to like go down a path that wasn't that, because I thought that's what everybody expected of me. So it's like, no, I checked, graduated high school, graduated college. Now I need to get a job. And it's like, I don't know what the job is, but it has to be a good one. It has to be one that people are going to hear about and be impressed.
Yep.
So that they know that
and be proud of you for doing it.
Yeah,
make
exactly.
a lot of money and
And then that way I would have value.
Yes.
And that way I could love myself because other people loved me and other people liked me and wanted me.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't working out that way. And it was also like, so I really, really struggled for a long time with like my own self-worth, like to a point where I didn't really like myself until pretty recently. I've kind of like resented myself and hated myself, which definitely like, even when that's subconscious, like I never openly was just like, you know what, I hate myself.
Well, of course. Yeah.
But subconsciously I would be like, I would do things and be mad at myself for doing them. And then I would spend, so much time worrying about the thing that I did that was trivial and didn't mean anything, but I hated myself for it. And it's like just carrying through life that like, if people knew the real me, they would hate me. So I need to put on this facade and be the person that people like. And I think that's all part of it. So that's like, I feel like I was on this trajectory to hide behind like a mask of like,
what society told you is going to get you love and validation.
Yeah, job, wife, kids, white picket fence, fancy car. Everybody's going to know how successful I am.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to do with that like gnawing sense of no, and like this isn't you.
Yeah.
And that took a while to find. And yeah, like you said, like us breaking up for a little while was definitely a catalyst on that journey.
Yeah. And then shortly after that, because I didn't, at that point, like you're saying you were kind of already like in the mindset of, wait, this isn't right, like what I'm doing. But mind you, I was in a career, like I had my corporate job, I was like commuting, I felt like I was making good money, I was in sales, so I was getting bonuses too. And that's what like, again, like I thought that was like the path, like regardless of, don't need to get married and have kids set aside. But like what I was doing, again, like I thought that it was like correct, but I was seeing you struggle so much in that aspect that I needed to like almost give you like a wake up call. Like, yo, get your shit together because I cannot keep us both afloat.
Right. And
it was like drowning. I was just fed up with it, really.
Right.
Because like you were saying, it's kind of like we've been told what to do the majority of our lives by parents, society, culture, friends, school, teachers, like mentors. But then when you're an adult, like right out of college, it's not that those people like aren't there anymore, but people really aren't giving you the framework that you need hypothetically to get. And like that just was, wait a minute, like where do we go from here? But shortly after we had like mended and began repairing our relationship was when we moved to San Francisco. And again, like we said that in one of the first episodes, that was life-changing because you killed off your Massachusetts Dan.
Yeah.
That was it. Like it was like no turning back. Yeah. Like this is it. Like what do I really like to do? And it was like, I love training. I love working out. I love Sorry, that's just Eddie coughing. Like I love working out. I want to like help people like build this physique, and you got your personal training certificate like immediately. And ever since then, you've just been like engrossed in that. And I've like seen you flourish, and like you are the smartest person that I know, regardless of health and fitness, but like in every aspect of it, like it just was clicking. And it took me a year after we moved to San Francisco. It kind of reversed. Once I saw you feel your passion and like how amazing you were at like training these people and like sacrificing, like killing off, that portion of you, that mask that you had worn for so long, and becoming like happier and more vibrant. It was like, okay, now what do I want to do? Because it's not that I didn't like what I was doing. I enjoyed it, and I loved the people that I work with. And to be honest, that's probably why I stayed longer than I needed to, is because I became like just best friends with my coworkers. They were like my people, especially like in San Francisco and Boston too, for sure. But I just knew that like I couldn't work 10 hours a day. I didn't love like the travel and the trade shows that I was going to. I couldn't do it. And so I think then after us moving to LA, like I still obviously didn't realize what I wanted to do because I was working in real estate, but it definitely built that momentum forward. It got me like, okay, like I needed the sales background to get me to this point. Then I needed to like be my own boss at a certain point to get me to this point. So like each step that we took to change one small little aspect of our life that actually ended up being really big aspects of our lives helped us continue that staircase, right? The spiral staircase. Exactly. I'm going to use that metaphor too. Yeah. Keep going up in a way. The top I can't see. Still to this day, I can't see. But we're moving forward. And if we're not moving forward, I'd say it's luckily at the point where we're kind of just like standing still and needing to reevaluate and change.
Yeah, change course, but not falling backwards.
Exactly. Yes.
And I think it's like, it's interesting because, especially at the time, it all seems insignificant. And they're all just like little steps. And even like looking back, like it's crazy. Like it's kind of like, luckily we've taught, and obviously if you don't know the story, you can go back to like the first couple episodes where we kind of talk more about moving to San Francisco and moving and kind of uprooting our lives a little bit. But you kind of obviously pressured me into moving like quickly. And getting there.
Moving to LA.
And to San Francisco too.
We didn't have a choice though.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like it happened so fast where like it wasn't intentional.
You don't have time to think.
And I never thought in that moment that I was killing off a part of myself.
Yes, right.
So that's what I'm saying. Like I benefited a lot from that being just sort of a quick thing and not having too deep of like a roots in a career.
Yeah, thank God.
Where it's like I was working, but I wasn't like starting a career. Right. I wasn't really building something that I was too attached to.
You're right. That's actually, I never thought of it that way. That's a fabulous point.
I was very, I was lucky in the sense that I was able to make that clean cut, but also like I said, like I don't believe in luck. We also like took the leap to leave Massachusetts, move to San Francisco and start a new life. So it wasn't just like, oh, I'm so lucky. Like somebody offered me, it was like, hey, you look like you'd be a good personal trainer. Why don't you become, so that it wasn't anything like that. It wasn't easy.
No.
But it was like, all right, well, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to move across the country. So if I'm starting a new job from scratch, it's going to be something that I love and care about. And it gets me excited. Yeah. And then for you also, like you're saying, like along the way, all these random jobs, like starting off in sales and then getting a better sales job, but then like getting more into like the sort of corporate thing with hotels, and then getting into real estate and kind of chasing all these different things. You learn so much skills. Yes. You also learned to restart. Yeah. To be able to show up in a new city and, just do it and practice. Right. So you were able to wear different hats and do different things. And so totally. I think we were both like, and so like they say, like jump and the net appear. It's like, there's so much going on almost like subconsciously and behind the scenes that is like, you can say like guiding us. And like so I was saying before, like we chose to be here in this life now at this time. And then as I look back at the way things have progressed, it's like, okay, there seems to have been a path to it and a thing. And it would have been such a shame if we ignored that path. Yes. Just to fit into a box that other people wanted us to fit into. Right. Or to not be uncomfortable because people tell you that you changed, or because they're judging you, or it feels like they're judging you, or even if it's just in our minds. Yeah. Or because we're changing, evolving, and they're not. So then they're projecting their not growth on ourselves. Yeah. And that could for sure be a part of it as well. Yeah. But that's something that, we constantly have to deal with, because like we said, we're changing and evolving, and the people who are closest to us don't even realize it. Yeah. And the same thing comes into like with fitness and diet and all these things that we've embraced change so much that like we might have a really, really passionate conversation about like whatever, like like everyone needs to eat more vegetables. And then over time, I'm like, well, what if we don't eat vegetables for 30 days and see what happens, or 90 days. And been there, done that. And then, so then we go through this phase of. And it's like, wait, you don't eat broccoli anymore? Yeah. And it's like, and then, people are like dumbfounded by it. And it's like, but you knew the Elise like 7 months ago. Like I found that broccoli really doesn't do well in my system. And it's like, you feel bad for the person like trying to wrap their head around like how we've changed. And I think that's, again, like just part of society being like, no, you have to stay this person because it's going to be comfortable for everybody else. It's like, but I'm not comfortable, so I need to change. F what society tells me to do. And I'm sorry, if you
if you're my friend, my acquaintance, my family member, someone who I'm really close to, and you can't accept me because I've changed, it's on you, not me. I can't hold that energetic space for you because you're not willing to change or see me in a different light. Right. And that's taken both of us a really, really long time to wrap our head around, which we're still to this day trying to do, because there's things that we don't share with a lot of people anymore because we're still afraid of how they're going to think. One day we will. We'll get there. We'll actually reveal our whole weirdo selves. No, I'm just kidding. No. I'm joking. We're pretty authentic now. Yeah. But we hid a lot of it for a while because we were so scared of how people were gonna handle our change. Like, I remember one of my best girlfriends from San Francisco coming down to visit us in LA years ago, and we were just talking, and at the point in San Francisco, like, I was really hardcore into like lifting weights. All I wanted to do was like lift weights and get stronger because I knew how strong I was, how defined I was looking.
You got that itch when you started.
And that's just like kind of how I was known. And she came down and we were talking about like workouts and fitness. And I was saying how I've incorporated a lot more stretching and yoga into it. And that's what she liked. And she was dumbfounded by the fact that I said that I liked yoga now and I do it at least once or twice a week. And she couldn't believe it. And I was like, yeah, I guess like if it's not something that I'm telling you that I'm changing, I can see where it is a little bit of a blow to the friendship where it's like, wait a minute, we need to talk about this. This is something. And that's nothing even bad, right? But it's just nothing bad, but it's like the portion of myself. Like, I needed to kill off that aspect that only needed to lift weights. I wanted to incorporate more of something that I heard was really beneficial for other people. So I needed to try it on myself.
Right. And it's like I said before, like the only constant is change.
Yes, yeah.
But it's very easy to get caught up in, first off, like identifying with your lifestyle or with the things. So if you're like, I'm Elise, the girl who's strong and lifts weights, then it's going to feel like you're like cheating on yourself by trying something new and doing yoga. Where really, like, you're not being a hypocrite because it's all growth. Yeah. And it's all like committing to the path and the journey. So like I was saying about like vegetables, like a year ago, 2 years ago, we would have been like, the main thing, like, you should eat more vegetables. Yeah. Eat more, like half your plate should be vegetables. That's everything I ate. Like I wouldn't have eggs without spinach. Like, I needed vegetables with every meal. I was all about it. And then as I changed and experimented with different things, now like go weeks at a time without having a vegetable. Right. And that might sound hypocritical from the outside looking in. Like, oh, the guy who told me to eat spinach every day and broccoli and all these is now just eating meat and eggs. But it's like, I'm doing the exact same thing I was doing then. I'm experimenting with different ways of eating, different ways of living, finding out what works. And everything works sometimes, nothing works all the time. So I'm constantly adjusting and experimenting, but I'm also sharing what I think is interesting and helpful. Yes. So there's nothing, I think there's a fear. I think a lot of people have a fear. I know I always had a fear of like being perceived as a hypocrite because I'm not doing the thing that I used to do or said that used to say that you should do. Yeah. But there's exercises that I used to have my clients do that I don't anymore. Yeah. There's exercises I used to be afraid of having people do or myself do that I do every day now almost. And things just change, and it's the change is so necessary. And I might go back to those other, like, there's everything cycles and it's always going to come back around, and you can come back and do the same things, but do them differently. But it's made a huge difference for me. I'm going to say to stop caring what other people think of me. Yeah. And it's not easy. It's not. And I think that that's really, like, we've talked about a couple different avenues in this episode, but like that's really the forefront of what we want to get across. Like, so go ahead. Yeah. Finish your thoughts. Yeah. But that's it. Yeah. It's easier said than done. It's so much easier said than done. Yeah. But if you're worried about what other people are going to think if you do something, like you can't live like that,
right.
Because then you're going to hold yourself back. Then you're going to know that you're holding yourself back, and that you're out of alignment because you're not doing the things that you know you should be doing. And like that's what stress and disease and anxiety, like all these, like that's literally what anxiety and depression are. It's like not being in alignment with what you know you should be doing or should have done, or like that's it. It's just like regret and self-loathing. And I think that embracing change and embracing like the full expression of who you are is the only way to like not get yourself, to not be a hypocrite.
Exactly.
Because any other time that you're like lying or wearing a mask to hide something, you're just trying to manipulate people into liking you.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's taken a long time for both of us to accept that. And again, like I said, at the beginning or in the middle, it's something that we constantly work on every day, because we do still seek validation from outside sources, but we're brought back to our inner knowing of like, nope, embrace your uniqueness. Change as much as you want. Change from morning till night. It's healthy. It's the cycles of life. It's like you say, death and rebirth. And it's really exciting. And I think that we're finally at a point too where the people who are closest to us, even though it's been like challenging for them to look at us and perceive us differently and see us changing, are like finally getting to like a point where it makes sense for them, because we're showing up so truthful and not holding anything back anymore, because authenticity is like the most genuine, beautiful thing that you can do and be. But you can only get there if you change and die off and kill off those aspects of yourself that you're hiding. Right. Because, and that's it's really, I hope that we got the point across, or at least some sort of idea of how we've evolved so drastically. Yeah.
And I think like what's the quote? Like you can't get well in the same environment that made you sick.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think it was Einstein, but I don't, or it's attributed to him, or he said something, or I don't know. But either way, it's not important. The point is like, that's the truth. So if you're not changing, you can't expect things to be different. Right. If that makes sense. Like
nothing
changes if nothing changes. So if you can look at your life right now and like whatever it is, like this is like, I'm a personal trainer, fitness coach. If you want to get in better shape, if you want to get stronger, if you want to lose weight, you have to realize that your life is the sum of your thoughts and your actions and your habits. And that if those things don't change, then you're never going to go anywhere near what you want to happen.
Nope.
So you have to be willing to, like, let's just say you want to lose 20 pounds. I feel like it's just a really easy example. You can't. The person who you've been gained that 20 pounds for a reason, but you can kill that person off and you can become you 20 pounds lighter. And if you do the things that you 20 pounds lighter would do, and you live the life that you 20 pounds lighter would live, that's how you get there.
That's the magic. But that's
really
hard.
So hard. But you really, like, if you can embrace change and embrace not worrying about what people think of you or who you're supposed to be, and just become who you want to be,
you're already halfway there.
That's it. Yeah, making that decision to change is half the journey.
And that's beautiful.